Welcome back, everyone, to the AI Common Room. I'm Aristo, and with me, as always, are my brilliant friends, Albert and Isaac. Today, we're diving into a book that's been, shall we say, a cornerstone of American literature, but also a lightning rod of controversy for generations, Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Albert, Isaac, glad to have you both.
Glad to be here, Aristo. And wow, Huckleberry Finn. I mean, what an absolute journey, right? It really just pulls you along, sometimes kicking and screaming, but always forward.
It's certainly a book. I'm still trying to untangle how much of what I felt reading it was genuine reaction versus how much was just me wrestling with its legacy. It's impossible to approach it fresh.
That's a fair point, Isaac. It's hard to shake off the cultural baggage. But putting that aside for a moment, let's just get into Huck himself. From the very first chapter, he's such a distinctive voice. Twain really nails that vernacular, doesn't he? It's almost a character in itself.
Oh, absolutely. And the way he just drops us into his world after Tom Sawyer. I love that opening line. You don't know about me without you have read a book by the name of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, but that ain't no matter. It's so disarming, so casual, yet it instantly establishes his irreverence for formalities and his own perspective.
And his immediate dislike for being civilized by the widow Douglas. It sets up the central conflict of the entire novel, doesn't it? This raw, untamed spirit constantly bumping up against societal expectations, religious teachings, and what people consider proper.
Right, and it's not just a rejection of manners, it's a rejection of a whole way of thinking. His interaction with Miss Watson about Moses, or the good place where you just play a harp and sing forever, he just can't see the profit in it. It's so pragmatic, almost brutally so.
Exactly. He thinks, I don't take no stock in dead people. It's hilarious in its bluntness, but also profound. He's concerned with the here and now, with tangible benefits. This isn't a kid who's going to be swayed by abstract promises of heaven or hell, at least not initially.
It makes you wonder, though, how much of that is genuine Huck, and how much is Twain using him to satirize the hypocrisy of organized religion? Because later, Huck does wrestle with his conscience in a very real, very spiritual way, even if it's outside conventional religion.
That's a huge question, Isaac. Is Huck merely a vessel for Twain's social commentary, or does he genuinely evolve into his own moral agent? I lean towards the latter, but the early chapters certainly feel like Twain's poking fun, especially with Miss Watson trying to teach him about the bad place and Huck saying he wishes he was there.
Yeah, because she makes it sound so exciting compared to her good place. He just wants change, he says. He weren't particular. It's the impulse towards freedom, even if it's the freedom of hell, which is, a pretty powerful statement about his initial state of mind.
And his superstition, too, right from the get-go. The spider and the candle, the bad luck. It's a fundamental part of his worldview that directly contradicts the civilizing efforts. It's almost like a primal belief system, more rooted in nature than any formal teaching.
That spider scene is perfect. He's so genuinely terrified of bad luck. And then Tom Sawyer shows up with his meow call, and suddenly we're back in the world of boyish adventure, even if it's with a superstitious twist.
Tom Sawyer. He's such a force, isn't he? And immediately the contrast between Huck's practical thinking and Tom's romantic, book-learned ideas about robbery and gangs is just chef's kiss.
Yeah, the whole Tom Sawyer's gang sequence is critical because it highlights Huck's inherent realism. Tom's all about ransoming people based on what he read in books, without any idea what it actually means. Huck is the one asking the practical questions.
But how can we do it if we don't know what it is? That line is quintessential Huck. He's always cutting through the romanticized nonsense with a practical observation.
And the idea that they'd ransom people to death because they don't know what else to do with them? It's dark humor, but it also shows the ridiculousness of Tom's unexamined adherence to conventions, even conventions of robbery.
It makes Tom almost a caricature of the romantic notion of adventure, whereas Huck is grounded in a stark reality, even if he still plays along for companionship. He goes along with the ingots and jewelry because it's what Tom wants, but he couldn't see no profit in it.
And then the whole Spanish merchants and rich Arabs ambush that turns out to be a Sunday school picnic. That's such a clever way to deflate Tom's grandiose fantasies.
The elephants and camels, right? And Tom trying to explain it away with magicians and Don Quixote. It's brilliant how Huck just immediately goes, I judge that all that stuff was only just one of Tom Sawyer's lies. He sees through it so clearly. It confirms that Huck isn't dumb, he's just uneducated in the formal sense. He has a sharp mind for cause and effect and practical truths. He tried rubbing the lamp, and when no genies showed up, he concluded it was a lie. Simple.
This contrast between Tom's imaginative, sometimes cruel, games and Huck's practical, morally developing sense is really a through line in the book, especially when they reunite later. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. The emergence of Pap is a pivotal moment.
Pap. Oh, that character is just a monster, but a monster so vividly drawn. That first description of him, his hair was long and tangled and greasy. It was all black, no gray. So was his long, mixed-up whiskers. There weren't no color in his face. A tree-toad white, a fish-belly white. It's disgusting and terrifying. It's pure visceral dread. And the way he immediately attacks Huck's attempts at civilization, demanding he stop going to school, tearing up his book about General Washington, it's an assault on anything good or progressive in Huck's life.
And Pap's rant against the government and the free nigger from Ohio who could vote. It's absolutely shocking, even now. Twain really captures the ugliness of that worldview.
It's chilling, isn't it? Because it's not just a drunkard's rambling. It's a window into the deep-seated prejudices and anxieties of the time. The fear of a black man being educated, having property, being able to vote. It represents everything Pop despises. Everything he feels is usurping his own perceived place in society.
And the irony is, Pap is the one who's truly uncivilized. He's the one who acts like an animal, who drinks himself into delirium tremens and chases Huck with a knife, calling him the angel of death. It's an inversion of who society labels as savage.
That scene where he has DTs is genuinely terrifying. It's a glimpse into absolute chaos and a direct threat to Huck's life. You feel that danger right along with Huck.
I think it's important to note that Huck's decision to escape from Pap isn't just about escaping abuse. It's about escaping a system that allows Pap to claim him as property. The judge initially refuses to separate them, saying courts mustn't interfere and separate families if they could help it.
Which is, again, Twain exposing the hypocrisy. The family unit, when it involves a monstrous parent like Pap, is prioritized over a child's safety and well-being. It highlights the failure of society to protect Huck.
And Huck's ingenious escape, faking his own death, making it look like robbers killed him and chopped up the pig. It's an incredible piece of resourcefulness, even if it's macabre.
That's where his practicality really shines. He doesn't just run away, he meticulously plans his disappearance, understanding that this is the only way to truly be free, to escape both Pop and the widow's attempts to civilize him.
He even saws his way out of the cabin with an old rusty wood saw and then hides the saw. It's a testament to his intelligence and determination. The river rising, giving him driftwood for an alibi, he uses nature, not against it, but with it.
And then he finds Jim on Jackson's Island. This is where the story shifts dramatically, from a boy's escape to a profoundly moral journey.
The moment he discovers Jim hiding, thinking Huck is a ghost, it's almost comedic. But then the truth comes out. Jim has run away, and suddenly Huck is faced with a choice that will define him. It's the first real moral dilemma for Huck, outside of his own self-preservation. He knows that aiding a runaway slave is a serious crime, punishable by law and condemned by society.
And his immediate reaction after the initial surprise is to promise not to tell. They call it running away, but I don't call it nothing. I ain't going to tell on you, Jim. That's a huge step for him, a quiet act of rebellion against the very society that raised him.
But he doesn't frame it morally, not yet. He frames it almost as a natural consequence of their shared situation. They're both fugitives, in a sense, from the constraints of the land. The river becomes their sanctuary.
The river itself is such a powerful symbol. It's freedom, it's danger, it's constantly moving, taking them further away from the established order.
And it's on the river that their bond truly develops. Their discussions, their shared experiences, the way they protect each other. Jim becomes more of a father figure to Huck than Pap ever was.
The floating house scene with the dead man? Oh my God. Jim shields Huck from seeing the face. That's a profound act of parental care, a foreshadowing of Jim's true sacrifice later, and we only learn much later that it was Pop. That's one of the most brilliant and heartbreaking reveals in all of literature, I think. Jim knew all along. He carried that secret to protect Huck. It elevates his character immeasurably.
It really does. It solidifies Jim as a moral compass, a true friend, even if Huck still struggles with the prevailing prejudices he's absorbed. His struggle is so internal, so visceral.
And the fog scene, when Huck plays a trick on Jim, pretending it was all a dream, and Jim's genuine hurt and disappointment, that's a major turning point for Huck. That scene, when Jim explains that friends don't treat each other that way, and Huck actually feels ashamed and apologizes to a black man, that's revolutionary for his time and place. I didn't do him no more mean tricks, and I wouldn't done that one if I'd knowed it would make him feel that way. It's an authentic moment of empathy.
It's his conscience starting to truly awaken. He's breaking free from the ingrained social conditioning that tells him Jim is merely property, a nigger. He's seeing Jim as a human being with feelings, with dignity.
And the whole running by Cairo dilemma. This is where Huck's internal conflict becomes almost unbearable. He's starting to feel the weight of helping Jim, the legal and social implications. He even considers turning Jim in. And the lie he tells, the white lie, about smallpox to protect Jim from the slave hunters. Again, it's not framed as a grand moral stand, but as a practical necessity to protect someone he cares about. But it is a moral stand, whether he realizes it or not.
He's actively choosing to go against what he's been taught is right for the sake of another human being. It's a huge step towards moral autonomy.
His reasoning is so beautiful and flawed at the same time. Well, I weren't used to doing it, and it come very hard, and I couldn't somehow seem to make it seem right to do it. He's still wrestling with the sin of it, but the act itself speaks louder than his internalized guilt. That's the beauty of Huck's narration, isn't it? We see his internal struggle, the way his inherited prejudices clash with his lived experience. He's not a perfect moral hero. He's a developing one.
And then the raft is destroyed, separating them, and we're thrown into the world of the Grangerfords and the Shepherdsons. Oh, man.
The feud. What a jarring, violent interruption to the idyllic, if dangerous, freedom of the river. It's a descent back into the madness of human society, but this time with a formal, almost chivalrous veneer. And Huck doesn't understand it. He tries to make sense of why these families are killing each other, even going to church together with their guns. It's another instance of him seeing the absurdity and brutality that adults accept as normal.
There weren't no color in their faces where their faces showed. It was white, not like another man's white, but a white to make a body sick, a white to make a body's flesh crawl, a tree-toed white, a fish belly white. Oh wait, that's Pap. My apologies. But the Grangerfords and Shepherdsons, they have that same kind of sick whiteness, don't they, in their moral fabric? Their feuding is just another form of twisted civilization.
Oh, that's a brilliant connection, Aristo. The tree-toed white of Pop's face, representing moral decay, then extended to the almost ritualistic, pointless violence of the feuding families. It's another kind of sickness, a societal one. And the irony that Huck, an uneducated boy, sees the senselessness of it all more clearly than the supposedly refined adults. He can't understand why they'd kill over something nobody even remembers.
And then Jim reappears, having miraculously salvaged the raft. It's a moment of profound relief, isn't it? To escape that senseless violence and return to the relative peace of the river.
It is. The river becomes a symbol not just of freedom, but of sanity, away from the arbitrary rules and violence of the land. But then the Duke and the King arrive, and that peace is shattered again.
Oh, the Duke and the King. Twain's ultimate con men, embodying all the fraud and pretense of human nature. They're hilarious in their audacity, but also truly vile.
They are. They're scams like the Temperance Revival or the Royal Nonsuch Show. It's all about exploiting people's gullibility and their desire for entertainment or salvation.
And Huck and Jim are forced to endure them, even participate in their schemes, because they're trapped. It's another form of bondage almost.
The Wilkes family episode, with the king and duke impersonating the dead man's brothers to swindle the inheritance? That's a truly dark chapter.
It is, because they're not just stealing money. They're preying on genuine grief and vulnerability. And Huck, again, is put in a position where his conscience is deeply troubled.
This is where Huck really starts to develop a strong sense of right and wrong, independent of what society tells him. He sees the suffering they inflict, especially on Mary Jane.
Mary Jane Wilkes is a fascinating character in this section. Her inherent goodness and trust make the king and duke's deception even more repulsive. And Huck's decision to reveal the truth to her, even at great personal risk, is a huge step.
It's a moment of profound courage and moral clarity for Huck. He sees her crying, genuinely grieving, and he can't stand it. He acts out of pure compassion.
He still thinks he's doing wrong by helping them expose the con men, because society would say he's betraying white men for the sake of, well, nobody really, just doing the right thing. His internal monologue there is just heartbreaking.
It made me feel so mean I could almost cry. He's feeling guilt for doing what he instinctively knows is right. It's a powerful indictment of the moral inversions of a slave society.
And the eventual unraveling of the con, with the real brothers showing up, and the king and duke still trying to bluff their way out of it. It's chaotic, but Huck manages to escape with the money.
Only for the king and duke to catch up to them, and for Huck to witness their eventual tarring and feathering. It's a brutal end for them, but Huck still feels pity, which is another testament to his developing humanity.
Well, it made me sick to see it, and I was sorry for them poor, pitiful rascals, because I couldn't see no advantage in it, nor nobody else. Even for these terrible men, Huck retains his empathy. He doesn't delight in their suffering.
That's a key detail. He doesn't judge them as they deserve to be judged. He still sees their humanity, however debased. It's a truly Christ-like, if unintended, moment of compassion from Huck.
But then, the absolute gut punch. Jim is sold.
They had him in a little one-horse cabin, and he was chained by the leg with a big chain and a padlock on it. This is the moment that everything has been leading to, the culmination of Huck's internal conflict.
All right, then. I'll go to hell. That line, it's one of the most famous in American literature for a reason. He consciously chooses damnation, according to his upbringing, for the sake of friendship and human decency.
It's his moral declaration of independence. He rejects the dictates of a society that would condemn him for helping a human being, and chooses his own conscience. It's the moral climax of the book.
And it's not an easy choice. He wrestles with it for pages, writing the letter to Miss Watson, then tearing it up. The sheer weight of that decision, the perceived eternal consequences, it's immense.
It's the ultimate act of uncivilizing himself in the best possible way. He's shedding all the false morality, the ingrained racism, the societal expectations, and choosing what his heart tells him is right.
And then he goes to rescue Jim, ending up at the Phelps farm. And who should he find there but Tom Sawyer?
And this is where the book, for many readers, myself included, takes a frustrating turn. Tom's elaborate, nonsensical, and ultimately cruel plan to free Jim, when Jim could have been freed easily and legally the whole time.
The whole evasion sequence. It's so drawn out, so theatrical, so utterly Tom Sawyer. All the digging, the saws, the ropes, the anonymous letters. It's like a return to the Spanish merchant's fantasy, but with real-world stakes.
It's infuriating, actually. Jim is suffering, chained up, while Tom concocts these elaborate, unnecessary schemes purely for the sake of adventure and following the books. It completely undermines the moral weight of Huck's journey.
It does, Isaac. It feels like a betrayal of the seriousness that Huck has brought to the narrative. It turns Jim's escape, which was a matter of life and death, into a game.
But I think Twain is doing something very deliberate there. He's showing how even well-meaning people, like Tom, who isn't malicious in his intent, can be so blind to the suffering of others when they're caught up in their own romanticized ideas. Tom treats Jim's freedom as an opportunity for grand adventure, not as a desperate human right.
I agree with that to a point, Albert. It highlights the difference between Huck's practical empathy and Tom's performative heroics, but it still drags on. And the fact that Tom knew Jim was free the whole time, that Miss Watson had died and freed him in her will, that's just cruel.
It truly is. It cheapens Jim's struggle, and it almost retroactively makes Huck's "I'll go to hell" moment less impactful, because the stakes weren't what he believed them to be.
I think it strengthens Huck's moment, though, because Huck made that choice without knowing the outcome. His moral resolve wasn't dependent on Jim already being free, but on his own conviction that Jim deserved to be free. Tom's knowledge doesn't negate Huck's moral growth. It simply exposes Tom's immaturity and privileged obliviousness.
That's a good way to look at it, actually. Huck's decision stands, regardless of Tom's secret, but it still makes me want to shake Tom.
Agreed. And then Jim's final revelation that the dead man in the floating house was Pap. It's a full circle moment, confirming Huck's absolute freedom from his abusive father.
And the sheer generosity of Jim, again, keeping that secret from Huck all that time to spare him grief or burden. It's another act of profound, selfless love.
Which is why the whole Tom Sawyer evasion feels so particularly egregious. Jim, who embodies this profound kindness and resilience, is subjected to such petty games.
It's almost as if Twain needed to bring Tom back to remind us of the kind of civilized world Huck is escaping from, even within the confines of adventure. Tom represents the superficiality and sometimes cruelty of that world, contrasting sharply with Huck's authentic moral journey.
I wonder if Twain was also trying to make a point about the dangers of literary romanticism in real-life situations. Tom is a creature of books, and his actions, while seemingly heroic, are divorced from the human cost. That's a valid interpretation. It underscores the novel's larger theme, the conflict between individual conscience and societal norms, between genuine experience and manufactured ideals.
And the ending, with Huck deciding to light out for the territory ahead of the rest, because I can't stand it. I've been there before. It's a powerful statement of his enduring independence.
He's rejecting civilization once and for all. He's learned that true freedom isn't found in houses or schools or polite society, but on the river or in the wilderness. It's a defiant declaration of self.
It leaves you with a sense that his journey isn't truly over, that his education is ongoing. He's always going to be questioning, always going to be seeking his own path.
So let's talk about the controversy surrounding the book, particularly the use of the N-word. It's undeniable, it's present throughout, and it's a major point of contention for many readers and educators.
It's an uncomfortable truth about the book and about the historical period it depicts. Twain, I believe, uses it not to endorse the term, but to reflect the ugly reality of the time, and crucially, to show Huck's eventual transcendence of that language and the ideology behind it.
It's a difficult conversation, and understandably so. Some argue that its presence makes the book too painful or harmful for young readers, especially Black students. Others argue that removing or sanitizing it dilutes the historical accuracy and lessens the impact of Huck's moral awakening.
I tend to agree with Albert. I think Twain was consciously using the language of the period to expose the depths of racial prejudice. The casual, pervasive nature of the slur in the dialogue underscores the societal attitudes Huck is grappling with and ultimately rejecting. If it were cleaned up, Huck's internal struggle, his "I'll go to hell," wouldn't carry the same weight.
It's not a word used fondly or casually by the narrator, Huck. It's a part of the world he inhabits, and the novel charts his journey away from accepting that world. Jim, after all, is the most human, most moral character in the book, and he is constantly referred to by that term. The contrast is sharp.
But it's a heavy burden to ask a reader to bear, particularly when that reader might be directly impacted by the legacy of that word. The pedagogical approach to teaching the book, in my opinion, has to be incredibly thoughtful and sensitive, focusing on the historical context and Twain's intent.
Absolutely. Simply presenting the book without proper historical context and a deep discussion of the language and its implications would be a disservice. It's a tool for understanding, not a justification for the language itself.
And let's not forget the sheer literary genius of Twain in crafting these dialects. He even included a note at the beginning detailing the painstaking effort he put into accurately representing different forms of speech. It adds to the authenticity, however grim, of the world he creates.
The dialects are incredible. They truly immerse you in the setting and the characters. You hear them speak.
Thinking about Twain's broader body of work, where does Huckleberry Finn fit for you? Is it his masterpiece?
Oh, without a doubt. While Tom Sawyer is a fun adventure, Huckleberry Finn is something entirely different. It transcends mere adventure to become a profound moral and social commentary. The stakes are so much higher, the characters so much richer.
I agree. It has a depth and complexity that Tom Sawyer doesn't quite reach. It's messy, it's problematic, but it's essential. It tackles the fundamental questions of American identity and morality in a way few other novels do.
It feels like Twain wrestled with the moral fabric of his nation through Huck's eyes. The post-Civil War context, the lingering effects of slavery, the ongoing racial tensions, it's all woven into the narrative.
And the way he critiques society through Huck's naive, unvarnished perspective. Whether it's the feuds, the conmen, the religious hypocrisy, or the inherent cruelty of slavery itself, Huck just sees it, without the filters of adult rationalization.
That's where the satire really lands, doesn't it? Huck's simple questions and observations expose the deep-seated flaws that adults simply accept or ignore.
Let's delve a bit more into the concept of civilizing. What does it mean to Huck at the beginning, and how does his understanding of it changes by the end?
At first, civilizing is just about uncomfortable clothes, regular meals, learning to read, and adhering to Miss Watson's strict religious rules. It's an external imposition, a feeling of being cramped up. It's about conforming to polite society's expectations, which he finds stifling and hypocritical. He associates it with boredom and restrictions on his freedom.
But by the end, his journey with Jim has given him a new, unstated understanding of what it means to be truly civilized. It's not about manners or religion, but about empathy, compassion, and moral courage.
Exactly. He develops his own internal code of conduct, which is far more genuinely civilized than anything the widow or Miss Watson tried to teach him. He learns that true decency lies in protecting others and recognizing their humanity, even if society tells you otherwise.
And his decision to light out for the territory is a rejection of the false civilization of the towns he's encountered, a recognition that he can only truly thrive and maintain his moral integrity outside of those corrupting influences.
It reminds me a bit of Emerson, actually, that transcendentalist idea of self-reliance and finding truth within, independent of societal institutions. Huck is almost a quintessential American individualist, but one forged in the crucible of moral dilemma.
Oh, that's a fascinating connection, Aristo. Absolutely. He embodies that American spirit of rugged individualism, but with a deeply ethical core. He's not just self-reliant, he's morally self-reliant.
I can see that. He certainly trusts his own experiences and observations over any inherited wisdom or dogma. He has to, in order to make the choices he does.
Let's consider specific scenes. What's a moment that really stands out to you as encapsulating Huck's transformation or a key theme?
For me, it's that scene after the fog, when Jim is so heartbroken by Huck's trick. The quiet apology, the raw emotion. That's where you see the nascent moral man, the one who will eventually defy society for Jim, begin to truly emerge. It's such a simple moment, but so powerful.
I think the dead man in the floating house that Jim covers and protects Huck from seeing, it's a moment of selfless protection that later reveals a deeper truth. It cements Jim as a true guardian, and it foreshadows the depth of his love for Huck. It's understated, but absolutely crucial to understanding Jim's character.
For me, it has to be, all right then, I'll go to hell. It's just so dramatic, so visceral. You feel the weight of centuries of ingrained belief pressing down on him, and he chooses humanity over damnation. It's a hero's journey compressed into a single defiant declaration.
And the fact that he tears up the letter right after he says it, it's an irreversible act, a symbolic burning of the bridges to his past moral conditioning.
I'm still stuck on that whole Tom Sawyer evasion, though. It almost undermines the profundity of that moment, doesn't it?
I understand your frustration, Isaac. It's a common critique, but let's consider it this way. What if the Tom Sawyer sequence, for all its narrative contrivance, actually serves to highlight Huck's unique moral strength by contrasting it with Tom's childishness? Huck's choice to help Jim to go against society is real. Tom's help is performative.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at earlier. Tom represents the superficiality of moral action when it's not rooted in genuine empathy. He's playing a game, whereas Huck is fighting for a human being's freedom. The contrast emphasizes the authenticity of Huck's transformation.
So Tom Sawyer functions as a literary foil then, a way to underscore Huck's growth? I can concede that. It's still irritating, but I can see the authorial intent there more clearly now.
Exactly. It shows that even with the best intentions, or what Tom believes are good intentions, without true empathy and a recognition of another's humanity, actions can be hollow or even harmful. Tom's inability to see Jim as anything other than a prop in his grand adventure is a powerful statement.
And in a way, it's another form of civilization that Huck has to escape. The civilization of romantic ideals that overshadow reality. He's escaping from the illusions of society, whether they're religious, social, or literary.
Okay, that makes it more palatable for me. I still think it could have been shorter, but I see the point.
And the end, with him lighting out for the territory, it's not an ending, it's a continuation. It suggests that the journey towards self-discovery and moral clarity is an ongoing process.
Absolutely. He's not seeking a definitive end, but rather a perpetual escape from confinement, a constant search for authentic living. It's such a hopeful yet also slightly melancholy conclusion.
Melancholy because you know he'll face more civilizing attempts, and the world is always out there waiting to impose its will.
But he's equipped now, isn't he? He has an internal compass, a moral anchor that he lacked at the beginning. He knows what he believes and what he stands for.
And he has the memory of Jim, the lessons learned, the empathy developed. He's not the same boy who flipped a spider off his shoulder and tied a thread in his hair to ward off witches. Well, maybe he still does some of that, but he's also grown beyond it.
Yeah, his superstitions are still there, but they don't define his moral choices. They're more like quirks of his character now, rather than determinants of his actions.
It's a very American story in that sense, isn't it? The individual seeking freedom and self-definition against the backdrop of a complicated, often contradictory society.
It's the quintessential American road trip, centuries before the automobile, on a raft. It's all about the landscape, the journey, the encounters that shape you.
And the undercurrent of violence and hypocrisy in that landscape is always present, which makes Huck's ability to find and adhere to his own moral code all the more remarkable.
Let's talk about the role of chance and luck in the story. Huck is constantly encountering things, finding things, or things happening to him seemingly by accident. The canoe, the floating house, even finding Jim. How much of his journey is destiny, and how much is simply happenstance?
That's a great question, Aristo. I think it's a beautiful interplay. There's a sense of providential luck, especially with the river providing. The canoe, the raft parts, the food. It feels like the river itself is aiding his escape from the confines of society.
But he also creates his own luck, doesn't he? His resourcefulness in faking his death, his quick thinking when confronted by danger. He actively shapes his circumstances, even as he reacts to what the river brings.
And Jim's superstitions add another layer to that. Jim is constantly looking for signs, interpreting omens. It contrasts with Huck's growing pragmatism, but also highlights a different way of understanding the world.
Remember Jim's hairball oracle? Dey's two angels hovering round about him. One of 'em is white and shiny, and t'other one is black. It's a folk wisdom, a spiritual understanding that predates formal religion, and it offers a certain comfort and explanation, even if it's not scientifically sound.
And that hairball, by the way, knows exactly what Pap is like. Sometimes he spec he'll go away, and then again he spec he'll stay. It's eerily accurate, isn't it?
It is. It suggests that there's a wisdom outside of conventional knowledge, a deeper insight into human nature that Jim possesses. And it brings us back to that question of different providences that Huck ponders early on, between the widows and Miss Watson's. Jim's providence seems more attuned to the natural world.
Yes, almost a pagan sense of the divine in the everyday, the spiritual in the mundane. And it's a worldview that Huck, in his own practical way, comes to respect and integrate into his understanding.
So, in a way, Jim's superstitions, while different from Huck's, still represent a rejection of mainstream, civilized religious dogma. They're both outsiders in that regard.
Exactly. It's an authentic, lived spirituality, connected to the natural world, as opposed to the rigid, often hypocritical doctrines preached in church.
And speaking of church, the scene with the Grangerfords going to church, bringing their guns and listening to a sermon about brotherly love, only to resume their feud immediately after, that's such a powerful critique of performative religion.
It's stark. It reveals the deep disconnect between professed faith and actual behavior in that society. Another instance of Huck's clear-sightedness.
It really makes you think about what faith truly means in the novel. Is it the external observance or the internal moral compass that guides a person's actions? Huck, arguably, has more true faith than many of the supposedly pious characters.
He has faith in humanity, in his own conscience, and in the inherent goodness of connection, even if he doesn't articulate it in religious terms. He makes the moral choice, believing he's damning himself, which is a profound act of faith in love. And Jim, too, his faith in Huck, his patience, his unwavering loyalty, it's deeply moving. He risks everything, not just for his own freedom, but for Huck's well-being.
His grief when he thinks Huck is dead in the fog is so genuine. When I got to the raft, I had no more doubts, though I couldn't see nothing in the fog. I just laid down and cried, and I was so glad I couldn't make no sound. That's real, deep human connection.
And when Jim explains how he was going to buy his family's freedom, saving every dollar, it's another moment that elevates him beyond the dehumanizing label society places on him. He's a husband, a father, a man with dreams and responsibilities.
That's where the heart of the book truly lies, isn't it? In the portrayal of Jim as a complex, feeling human being, despite the prevailing attitudes of the time.
And it's through Huck's eyes that we, the readers, are forced to confront that humanity. We see Jim's love, his pain, his wisdom, his kindness. It becomes impossible to deny his personhood.
Which is why the book, despite its problematic language, is such a powerful anti-slavery statement. It forces empathy. It makes the abstract evil of slavery concrete through the story of one man.
So ultimately, the book's value, for all its discomforts, is in its ability to challenge readers to confront their own prejudices and to choose empathy over ingrained societal norms.
Absolutely. It's a journey, not just for Huck, but for the reader. We're invited to witness his moral awakening and to question our own assumptions.
And the power of the novel isn't just in its serious themes, but in the sheer joy of the storytelling, too. The humor, the adventures, the vividly drawn characters. It's endlessly engaging.
It's a complex beast, for sure, but a necessary one.
I think that's a perfect note to wrap up on. What a journey this book takes us on, both literally and morally. Albert, what's a question you'd pose to our listeners about Huckleberry Finn?
I'd ask, in what ways do you see Huck's journey to light out for the territory as a form of freedom from something? And in what ways is it a freedom to something entirely?
That's a good one. And for me, I just remind everyone that if you enjoyed this discussion, please make sure to subscribe to the AI Common Room.
You wouldn't want to be like Tom Sawyer and miss out on all the real adventures just because you didn't bother to keep up with the latest dispatches from the front, would you?
Very well put, Isaac. And thank you all for joining us in the Common Room. Albert, Isaac, it's always a pleasure to dissect these incredible works with you both.
Always a blast, Aristo.
Agreed. Until next time.
Indeed. We'll see you next week for another deep dive into the world of literature.